Oh, cool.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce business live stream this afternoon. So this afternoon we're very lucky to have with us Michael Markham from Kendons. Michael, lovely to see you again.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Helen, as always. Good to catch up.
Yes, you too. So we were both having a bit of a joke, weren't we, about that we're both actually sitting back in our own offices, in our business premises rather than working from home. So maybe our internet will be a little bit stronger. So thank you for joining us this morning. This afternoon. So recently, the Hutt Valley Business Response Team, Covid-19 Response Team, ran a survey around what's happening in the business community in relation to Covid-19. And the single biggest challenge facing businesses that are operating at the moment is cash flow management. And of course, we all know that cash flow is the most important thing when it comes to sustaining any business operation. So this afternoon, we'll just share some information. Michael will share some information and some of his expertise around how to start thinking about cash flow management and maybe some of the tools that are available right now. And I can assure you this is something that we're working on at the Chamber as well in terms of adapting to the environment that COVID has delivered to us. So if you have any questions for Michael this afternoon, please pop them in the comment stream and we will deal with those at the end and have a bit of chat at the end as well to determine and whatever help you need. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon, Michael, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Yeah, thanks. Good to see everybody. And I just really wanted to start out by saying, appreciate you taking the time out during these unprecedented times this afternoon. And also huge thanks to the Chamber. If you think about people who have been sitting at home, perhaps not doing too much, certainly the same can't be said for the Chamber. They've just been running live stream after live stream and keeping us all up to date in terms of what's been going on. So that's really awesome. I suppose from our perspective today and talking about cash flow, it definitely has been the number one discussion topic that we've been having with clients. So, I'm sort of not surprised in a way that the feedback from the survey is that cash flow is going to be the big problem for people, or the big concern for people over the coming few weeks and months. And it was pleasing to see, obviously, with the wage subsidy coming out, that's put cash into the back pockets of small business, because it is really tricky when you're coming up to payroll time and you're trying to find some cash. Easy enough to perhaps stall some payments here or there by a few days for suppliers, but not so much for your employees who are totally and utterly reliant on it. So we've talked about cash flow being king for years, and I think what people are realizing now is that as they look at their business post-COVID, and depending on how badly you've been impacted, cash flow is going to be just absolutely critical and a really good measure of your efficiency in terms of moving forward. So today I'm going to cover off a few things. One, obviously the importance of cash flow forecasting. Two, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we see as the 7 key causes of poor cash flow, or the 7 key areas that you might be able to drill in on to try and help your cash flow improve. And finally, I just really want to make sure that everyone knows about the support that's available. And I know you'll be getting at it from all angles, webinars coming out, emails coming out, but it's just so important. I had a discussion with a client just the other day who said, the small business cash flow loans, I didn't know that we could get one of those from the IRD and that it would be so simple to get. So I just want to touch on those as well. So let's start with cash flow forecasting. And many clients approach us and they say, look, can you, under normal terms, they say, look, can you help us with a cash flow forecast because the bank wants it for a loan that we're about to get. And I often say to people, look, that's all good and well, and yes, absolutely, the bank will want that, but you too really ought to be on top of and have your finger on the pulse around cash flow. So I always say to people, you should understand what your cash flow looks like. And in normal circumstances, cash flow kind of just deals with itself. If your business, if you're monitoring your profit and loss, which is separate from cash flow, then ordinarily your cash flow will be okay in normal times. But where you're needing to lean up and make sure that every cent comes in the door, it becomes really, really critical. And so when we're having conversations with clients around, look, do I pay the PAYE this month, or do I pay the GST? Should I be making provisional tax payments? And so on and so forth. Should I be restructuring my business? The question is, well, what does your cash flow forecast tell you? Because really, it will help you to not only understand a pretty good picture of what your business cash flow, the lifeblood of the business, is going to be, but also it's going to give you a bit of peace of mind. Because if it's one thing that I've had recently, it's people stressed out, and when they see it laid out in front of them, they get that peace of mind that at least they know where the pinch points are going to be. And so quite often I'll hear people say, oh, look, profit's looking to be okay, but yet they still have a problem, and it's because of that understanding the difference between making profit and good, strong cash flow. So yeah, I always say to people, cash flow forecasts are almost more important than your profit and loss. And that's because to be able to generate the cash flow forecast, you need to understand the profit and loss. So really important that we do that and get on top of what our cash flow looks like. Okay, so you've heard it from me enough now on forecasting. Let's dig into the 7 key causes of poor cash flow. So number 1 is accounts receivable, or debtors. Call it whatever you like. And this is a really easy one. And if we look at history in terms of how people are collecting their debtors, whether it be the 20th of the month following, whether it be 7-day payment terms, whether it be payment on completion, people are getting or have been sloppy around payment terms. And so one really quick way to get more cash in your back pocket is to streamline your accounts receivable process. So that could be, moving from 20-day term, 20th of the month following terms to 7-day terms. And people will say, oh yeah, but it's not fair because they've always paid on the 20th of the month following. Well, look, we're in unprecedented times. If you've done the work, you should be paid. We're in a real-time economy now. For those of you using Xero, invoices leave one Xero, they hit the other Xero, they can be approved. Why not be paid? If you've delivered the service, you've provided the goods, why not get paid? 20th of the month following is simply, I need to write out a check and provide time for it to go in the mail. And so I believe that's old hat. You should be looking at your accounts receivable process and how you can minimize your debtors, or speed up the number of debtor days that we call it. And I've had real life examples recently where if we could just shorten the cycle of the accounts receivable by, say, 10 days, we could instantly add $10,000 in terms of cash flow to that bank account, and that makes a massive difference. The other one's really around accounts payable, and some of this will be basic stuff for many of you, but things like streamlining your payment processes so that you get prompt payment discounts and avoiding late payment penalties. So making sure that, if there's an opportunity to get better trade terms, that you get them. And equally, I've been working with clients recently where they have had accounts payable or credit terms provided over a 3-month period. So how can we speed up the money coming in the door and slow the money going out the door? And look, I understand it's kind of contradictory, because on one hand I'm saying, well, you should demand payment in 7 days, and on the other hand I'm saying you should ask for extra credit terms. But the reality is, if I'm advising you in terms of your business and how you can do better from a cash flow point of view, it's just about looking for opportunities where there might be a little bit of fat and where you might be able to make sure that you get that cash in. Third area, for those of you that hold stock, this is a real bugbear of mine, is are you overstocked? Have a look at, is there an opportunity for you to liquidate? So have you got 10-20% of obsolete stock that you could just cash in, even if it's below cost. You know, if you've had it for 5-10 years, now's an opportunity to look at liquidating some stock. Number 4, so the 4th key cause of poor cash flow is all around sort of an inappropriate debt or capital structure. And the best example I've got of this is if you've got a business that's grown exponentially over the last 2 or 3 years, but you know you've continued to suck profit out of the business and you haven't provided for sufficient working capital as the business has grown, then you may be feeling like you're in this constant bind of waiting for payment to come in before you can pay your 20th, and constantly feeling stressed. But actually, if you reviewed the capital structure of the business, you'd say, oh, actually, I just need an overdraft facility of 50,000 and everything would be fine. So, you know, looking at timing of ordering things and so forth. Number 5 is overheads too high. So this is a real simple one, and you know we've looked at this and we've been working with clients on this. You know, now is a really great time to be making sure that you're getting value for money and that you've checked up on you know, are there ways that you can cut costs. So a classic example is you're buying paper from XYZ supplier and they're charging you $5 a ream. Can you get it for $4 a ream? And I know it seems like simple stuff and it seems like small amounts, but they all add up. So just keeping an eye on overheads. The 6th area is all around gross profit margins being too low. And so this is the example of different aspects of your business losing money. So could there actually be a part of your business that needs to be either carved off or leaned up or done in a different way, where you could either raise prices or reduce costs? And obviously number 7 is, and no one has a magic bullet for this, but are sales levels simply too low? You know, do you need to be looking at strategies around marketing, ways to lift your revenue line so that you can cover the overhead costs that you've got in your business? So those are the 7 key causes of poor cash flow. You know, most businesses kind of have 1 or 2 of these and they're working on 1 or 2. And the businesses that are really struggling at the moment have kind of 6 or 7, or you know, all of them. And so, you know, if there's a cash flow problem for you now, try and get some quick wins on the board. And the quick wins come really from looking at accounts receivable process and inventory process, and then start digging into the other ones. And maybe just set up a project, you know, monthly project over the next 7 months. Month 1, we're going to look at accounts receivable. Month 2, accounts payable, and so on. And then finally today, I just thought I'd touch on getting the support that you need. So hopefully for everyone who needed it and who was eligible, you've had the wage subsidy. So just a reminder that that's a 12-week lump sum upfront for full and part-time, as we've seen a 30% decline year on year in revenue in a single month. That actually ends on the 9th of June. So make sure that if you believe that you're entitled to that you do apply for it. And then, of course, we've got the extended wage subsidy, which is the 50% decline. And that's the 50% decline in revenue for the 30 days prior to application. And applications don't open until the 10th of June. So that would be the 30 days prior to the 10th of June compared with the 30 days prior to the 10th of June 2019. So there's a couple of options there. You know, our view would be that the extended wage subsidy is going to be, you know, useful for tourism type operators, you know, people who have just had absolutely decimated revenue levels, because a 50% decline is going to be pretty tricky to achieve for many. There's the small business cash loans that are available, administered through IRD, and we've had a number of clients apply for those, get cash the same day. And so that's $10,000 per company plus $1,800 per employee, up to a maximum of 50 employees, so a total of $100,000. And that loan, if repaid within 12 months, effectively becomes interest-free. So that one's definitely worth looking at as well. There's obviously the government guaranteed loans that a few have applied for, up to 500,000. Very, very tricky to get. Banks are being quite tricky around that one. And quite often people forget this, but there's just general bank loans. It might be that if you've looked at your cash flow and you've looked at your capital structure of the business and your debt structure, that actually $100,000 permanent facility in your overdraft is entirely appropriate. And now's a great time to borrow in terms of interest rates at record unbelievable levels. And obviously the NZTE supported advice, which we're hearing messages that potentially that might have already been used up, but certainly NZTE can help out with support there. So the final comment I was just going to make is that we're running a webinar tomorrow at 11, and that's all about kind of business recovery. So we've got through business continuity and keeping ourselves above water for those of us that are lucky enough to be in that position. And then tomorrow's kind of about how can we accelerate our recovery, and we're going to be giving out access to our free recovery templates. And also, look, if you're feeling a bit lost at the moment, I suppose, and you're wanting someone just to have a wee chat with, just don't hesitate to give me a call or to send me an email. You can always check out our website. And hopefully it's been useful. And I'll open up now, Helen, to questions.
Great, thank you, Michael. So if you have any questions, anyone, just pop them in the comment stream below in Facebook, and then we'll be able to see them and answer them for you. So Michael, just a little bit on that funding that you talked about from Wellington NZ. So did you do much work in that space? Yeah. So is there some details around it? I know it's largely used, but...
Yeah, look, we've done quite a lot in this space, actually. I think it was a really good initiative, Helen, because it gave 100% funding for specific COVID-19 support around cash flow. We also had clients use it for HR support. And so, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. My understanding is they might have almost used up that 100% funding, but nonetheless, there's still the 50% funding that's available. And so the message I've been hearing from business owners is, it sounds too good to be true that I could get some funding to help. So I'm trying to just say to people, look, there is support out there, and there's some people really struggling. And we are just trying so hard. We're doing these webinars, you're doing these live streams. It's that sort of one-to-many. How can we get out as much information and as much support as we can, so that it doesn't matter if you've got no money or a bit of money to be able to get you advice and on the right track, you can get that support.
Yes. So I think you're right that the first tranche of that has been used, but I still think it is worth applying for it, because partway through level 3, I think it was, they did announce a new tranche of funding for vouchers and support for businesses. And while the system for that hasn't quite come into play yet, I know they're working on that. So certainly worth looking at those vouchers, either 50% or 100% funding. I think they were up to $2,500, weren't they, Michael?
Yeah, so Wellington was doing 2.5, but we had a couple of clients up in the Tauranga area that were getting a full 5,000. So, right. It's it's really good. I mean, it's a really good initiative.
Yeah. Okay. And so one other thing, I don't want to put you on the spot, Michael, but this morning I was working with one of your team members at Kendons, and we were working on cash flow and budgets like you're recommending today, because it's just as important to a chamber as it is to any business entity. And there's some very cool tools available in cash flow management, and Ali recommended a product called Float. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but she's already sent me the link to it, and I've had a look at it. And that's some new technology that links to Xero. Are you aware of that one?
Yeah. So Ellie and I were working together on that actually, because what we were finding is that, Excel's good, but it's prone to human error. And we were also finding that there was a need amongst everybody to be able to get quick access to cash flow forecasting, but not just do the forecast and then forget about it, but monitor it over time. And so Float is a really great system that we've set up now, whereby we can build the forecast based on a whole lot of assumptions, and it talks directly to Xero, so it can kind of take last year and say, well, is this what's likely to happen going forward? Build in tax payments and all those other annoying things that have to be taken care of that everyone forgets about. But more importantly, say, okay, so we've had a month now and we forecast 100,000 of income and 105,000 of outgoings. How did we actually go, and how accurate and reliable was our forecasting? Because the key message, Helen, I hear from people is, cash flow forecasting a waste of time, because you don't know what you have no idea what your cash flow is going to be. But in reality, you do have a pretty darn good idea of when people pay you and trends that are within your business. So.
Yeah, well, I can certainly attest to it not being my favourite activity to do in my role, but given the situation that we're all in and the uncertainty we've got going forward and the change, like you said, we have a real-time economy. Absolutely, this whole economy changes every hour or day, it seems. So certainly, I'm looking forward to ditching my Excel cash flow spreadsheet and using a product that Ellie says that Float will do. I can learn it in about 5 minutes. So, I just thought I'd mention that as well. Okay, so I'm not sure if we've got any other questions, and no, it doesn't look like it. So can I just thank you, Michael, for your time today. Thank you for being a platinum partner with the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce and supporting our work in the community. We appreciate it. I tell you it frequently, but we do appreciate it every week. So thank you for sharing your expertise freely and supporting the business community through our work and through the work you do directly as well. And for those of you listening or have come in on a video viewing this after the event, then please drop any comments in the comment stream and we'll get those answered for you as well. So thank you very much, Michael.
Pleasure. Thanks, Helen. Have a good one, everyone. See you later.
Bye.